Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dean's Chat, where we discuss all things podiatric medicine. My name is Dr. Jeffrey Jensen. I'm the Dean at the Arizona College of Podiatric Medicine and the host for the Dean's Chat podcast. I have a great interview today. I'm bringing Dr. Anna Weber onto Dean's Chat. Welcome, Dr. Weber.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Thank you so much. Dr. Weber, we are pretty informal here on Dean's Chat, so if it's okay with you, let's go first names Anna and Jeff.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. So, Anna, you and I have known each other for a long time. I remember when you clerked at the North Colorado program as a student at Scholl, and you came on and were a resident at the North Colorado surgical residency program. So we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah, we sure have.
Well, let's circle around. We've got a bunch of things to talk about today. The first thing I wanted to talk about was your involvement in putting together a super group of 4 podiatry practices in Colorado, and you're the president of the group. Can you enlighten our listeners about what it's like to put a group together and everything that it entails and what the benefits are?
You bet. Well, I don't want to take all the credit. It was one of those volunteer positions that I wasn't exactly voluntold, but nobody was raising their hand. But it really, I have to give the credit to some of the other docs that had been in Colorado decades before me, really, who just kind of saw the waves of change and had been thinking about this concept that if you bring practices together, ideally, and we've really modeled ours around this concept, that you retain autonomy and independence at the practice level and how you like to practice, but you share some of the practice overheads. So you share things like management, and you share things like billing and marketing, and you get better potential discounts on supply ordering and things like that, volume type discounts, where if you've got 12 physicians coming and buying supplies versus 2, there's some savings to be had there. So really just decreasing practice overhead and building a brand. So the idea has obviously been around for a long time. And I guess it was about 7 or 8 years ago, a few groups really got serious about it and sat down in a room together on a Saturday and kind of hammered out some of the details. We used an independent kind of practice advisor at that time, and he helped us get through the legal aspects of it and how was this going to look from an accounting perspective and all these sorts of things. And then that's about when I said, okay, I'll do it. Because I really liked it, actually. I hadn't gotten that excited about it up until that point because just quick side note of history, my private practice that I'm in now, Jeff, was your practice in Colorado. And you hired an office manager who had been there with you for, I don't know exactly how many years, and then she stayed. And when I came on, she was then our practice manager for 6 or 7 years, and she was just a wizard. I mean, we didn't have to touch anything because she ran the show. Yep. And so I hadn't really tried to learn this stuff very much because I didn't have to. And as we started going through the business aspects of it, I realized it was really a fun new challenge in practice. And I was enjoying it, and I was kind of studying up a lot on the sides about leadership and how to run an organization like this. And then just one thing led to another, and here we are about 6 years later. We initially were just 2 groups. That's who ended up kind of signing on after all the exploratory stages. And then now we've brought in 2 more groups. So we went from my partner Eric and I, 2 docs, to 11 over the course of a few years.
Wow. So with 11 docs and economies of scale, everybody's happy?
Yeah, I think it's going really well. I think the key for us was not to be one of these groups that just came along and bought up practices or took authority over the way that someone would run their practice. It's worked well for us. I think it's kept people happy. You're in a location for long enough, you really start to establish some bonds among other practitioners, and the people we brought on, I consider friends and colleagues. And so there was a trust there right off the bat. And yeah, I think people have been pretty happy seeing those savings. And also it's kind of exciting to see a brand grow. We're the foot and ankle center of the Rockies, and we can tap into a lot more marketing that way. And I think it's benefited everybody.
Oh my gosh, that's fabulous. Yeah, kudos to Ramona back in the day. She was with me for 17 years, and I didn't have to worry about anything except seeing patients and, interfacing with referring docs and making sure my notes got done.
Yeah, if everyone could be so lucky, she was fantastic.
No, absolutely. I can envision an environment where if you brought a research trial to the clinic, all of a sudden you've got 4 clinics that could be enrolling. So there's a lot of potential upside there.
Yep, we've definitely thought about that sort of thing.
So what are the downsides? Are there any downsides?
Boy, they're small. I mean, I think that one of the groups that just came on recently converted their website over, and something you don't think about when they changed their website to ours, they kind of dropped in the rankings. They were harder to find online. So it'll take some time for that to climb back. If somebody were really attached, for example, to the name of their practice and they come on, that could be a struggle a bit. But I can't think of too many others. I think it's been pretty smooth.
So just kind of like minimal growing pains, if anything.
The growing pain, that's a good point. The growing pains are in the transition time. So certainly switching over, there had to be some switch over on EMR. You had to switch to a different billing platform. Those things took time. I guess, in hindsight, I've sort of erased those, scrubbed them out a little bit, but that was there initially. Yeah. And I would say those growing pains are, depending upon how many similarities there are already, maybe 6 months, 12 months to get to know the new systems and that sort of thing. But otherwise, once that's in place, pretty straightforward.
Yeah, that makes sense. I imagine you're going to have to fend off some of the private equity groups. Are they already knocking on your doors?
We have had a lot of meetings.
I'll bet you have. Well, good for you. That's awesome. Well, congratulations, because what's better than to be able to come to work in the morning and worry about seeing patients, not all the other things?
Right, exactly.
Oh, good for you. I've got a whole bunch of things I want to talk about, but I thought we'd go right back to the beginning. And, how'd you find out about podiatric medicine that led you into going to the Scholl College of Podiatric Medicine?
Sure. So my story is a bit like others, where I didn't know a whole lot about it until I did. And I had seen a podiatrist, I think, in junior high for a wart, and then kind of forgot about him. And I actually started off in engineering, and my switch out of engineering came pretty quick because I realized that I really wanted to be facing people all day, talking to people and learning from people and educating people and using my hands. And, to me, a job in engineering felt very much like, sitting in front of a computer all day, and it just wasn't for me. So I transitioned into pre-medicine, not knowing exactly where that would take me, but feeling like I probably wanted to do something in the field of health. And then after I graduated from undergrad, I took a little time off to explore that. So I took 2 years between undergrad and going to podiatry school. Initially thought I wanted to go through allopathic medical school and become an OBGYN. That was kind of my dream. And I'm so glad I took the time off, because when I visited with some of the OB-GYN physicians and residents, I encountered a lot of dissatisfaction in different aspects of their career, and I kind of second guessed it. So I went back to looking at all other fields of medicine. And when I came across podiatry, which somebody just mentioned, oh, you should check out podiatry. So, back then the websites weren't robust, but I hopped on a website and I found out a little bit about it. And that led to shadowing a couple podiatrists and realizing that's where I wanted to be. So for me, the attraction was getting to know your patients really well, having a hands-on experience where there is surgery, which I love, but it doesn't have to be the end-all be-all and, all the hours of your day, because I do like office time as well. And I certainly like the aspect that, if your feet hurt, your whole body hurts, and we can make such a difference in the lives and lifestyles of our patients. So that was really important, and that kind of resonated with me.
Very good. So then how did you decide on the Scholl College?
I was from Cincinnati. I was living there at the time, and I just visited the closest schools, really. I went and visited Scholl, and I visited the Ohio school. And at the time, I loved the Scholl school. I loved the dean at the time. Or actually, it wasn't even the dean that I met with. It was the director of admissions, I suppose. Visited the school and was just impressed with everything that they offered. Yeah.
Oh, about the time that you were in podiatry school, Scholl had reached out to us in Colorado and asked if we'd be interested in starting a residency program. And it was Dr. Albright and Dr. Todd that gave us the Genesis funds to start a program, because many hospitals are a little resistant to starting a program because they have to eat all the expenses the first year and a half to 2 years. So
Right.
Scholl funded that, and then we ended up with a pipeline. We had a pipeline to Scholl College. So I remember, when we started the program, Eric was your senior resident, right, Dr. Jacola?
Yes, exactly.
And I remember all of you coming through and doing clerkships, and we felt so fortunate, Anna, to have you come to the program. It was a newer program. Was that a challenge for you to come out to Colorado and dive right into your residency in a newer program, or did it feel right?
It really felt right. I could tell early on that you all were putting together a really good program. I was impressed with all the surgeons that I met. I think I would still say that this is true of this program today. We aren't I'll say we're not a highly intense program in the sense that it's not a lot of pimping. It's not a lot of you're staying up late just for the sake of it, or there's this pecking order that exists. I felt like the doctors really were immediately friends and people who really were behind you for your success. And that definitely struck a chord with me. And then, the one risk, of course, with any new program was, were we really going to get the funding?
Right.
And so that's very real. You don't want to come and start residency and then not get paid. But I could see that people were doing everything right. I mean, all the outside rotations were getting lined up, and really seemed to have that support of not only Scholl, but now the home hospital. And so I felt like it was a safe bet and really where I wanted to be.
Absolutely. Thank you. And so let's talk about the program a little bit, because it's evolved over the last 20 years, as it should. I've got my students every day. They're asking, should I do a rotation at the North Colorado program? And as you know, I encourage that all the time. But for our listeners, can you share some information about the North Colorado Medical and Surgical Residency Program? Where it's housed, where, the travel, how many docs are involved, just an overview of the program.
Yeah, absolutely. So the program is based out of the home hospital, which is in Greeley, Colorado. It's about an hour north of Denver, which is where I practice. And we take 2 residents per year for a 3-year program. They, like most programs, they start off doing a year of a lot of their required rotations in medicine and emergency and behavioral psych and all the different other rotations. And I like what they do in the first year, which is that they try to alternate as best they can on service and off service so that they do get some podiatry exposure early on. That wasn't always the case. And sometimes they'd be sandwiched, there'd be like 6 months where they would have heavy rotations. And then all of a sudden you'd see a first year resident in surgery for the first time, in January. It's like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. But now they're trying to do a little bit more of weaving those experiences in and yet still finishing them within the first year to year and a half. And then we have, I don't know the exact number, but certainly upwards of 25 to 30 attendings all told. Some podiatry, some those outside rotations, and then some ortho that the residents work with. They are primarily committed to the home hospital up in Greeley. They manage inpatients there. They do the wound care clinics there and have a lot of surgery up north. They do have to travel a little bit. You referenced the travel. And that is, we're the furthest south. So we're an hour from the residents. We try not to make them have to do that too much, but they want to come down on days that we have surgery. And typically if they do come down, they'll either stay down for the day or they'll, pop back up north and end their day up north. So it's not a ton of like back and forth all day, every day. But I would say on average, they get down to Denver maybe once every 1 to 2 weeks. So it's not a terrible amount in terms of the travel anymore. It used to be quite a bit more because we were patching together rotations between a couple different hospitals. And I mentioned that we don't do a lot of what I consider, kind of pimping and that pecking order that I referenced, but we're a highly academic program. So we have a lot of didactic and hands-on workshops. And there's about 4 or 5 of us involved as kind of core attendings. So we have rotations on different topics. Journal club. Dr. Jacola meets with them on various topics. I typically meet with them on pediatric topics. Dr. Atherton does a radiology review with them. I think it's about every other week. So they do have a lot of morning and evening type things like that. That really, I think, is one of the strengths of our program.
Oh, that's great. It's kind of like the I-25 program, right? Just north and south there.
Yeah.
I remember Rylan Johnson back in the day had a motorcycle and he would go back and forth between the hospitals. So from a resident's perspective, what's the call schedule look like? I get asked that a lot, as you can imagine.
Sure. So they, I'm not going to get this exactly right, but their first year they're on call more. And in their first 6 months, they pair with a second or third year so that they learn the ropes of being on call. And that's a little heavier for the second years and then lighter for the third years. I want to say by third year, they're only taking that call maybe once every 6 weeks or something. So they've got some kind of a algorithm sorted out so that they know exactly how to get those first years acclimated. But first year, it's pretty much every other week on call. And then by second year, I do believe that goes to 1 every 2 to 3 for the first 6 months, and then less in the second 6 months. And then, as I mentioned, third year, I think it's only that first 6 months and only once a month or so. By the end of third year, they're not on call.
Very good. And then do you have graduates from your program? Are they going into practice? Are some of them going into fellowships? Have you noticed any trends there?
The trend is definitely more and more fellowships. And I think that's probably true across programs. There are still some that are coming out and going right into private practice. The other practice model that seems to be popular in a couple of our residents over the past 3 or 4 years have gone directly into a hospital-based practice. But a lot more fellowships than there used to be.
There are, and which just adds to the options when you get out, whether it's a multi-specialty group or private practice or fellowship or hospital. A lot of options for graduates.
A lot of options, yeah.
So how about for students? The clerkship program has been going on for 20 years, and they usually get to see a lot. And how's that looking? How's it structured? It's a month, of course. And I know that a lot of students, when they start planning their tour around the country the 4th year, they want to go to multiple programs in one area. And Denver, Colorado area is very fortunate to have several great programs. What does ours look like from a clerkship perspective? I say ours. I say ours loosely. I still consider it part of it, but the North Colorado program.
Yeah, and I should mention too, just a plug for the other Colorado residencies. Our third, so it's us and Presbyterian St. Luke's, and then what was the Denver VA has now merged with Denver Health. And so they've acquired more hospital rotations. They've acquired more attendings throughout the state and the region. So that program is really on the rise. And the director there is one of our former residents. So that's great too. So there's a lot of good camaraderie amongst the residencies here. But our clerkships, it's a month, and we do provide housing up in Greeley. There's also a family medicine residency, so they have clerks come out as well, and so they share a house that I'm not sure how many bedrooms, but there's always room for everybody to have their own bedroom. And then they are kind of assigned to the residents' schedule each week. The same way the residents are. So basically a Google Doc comes out every week, and it shows the surgeries that are up for the week with all the different attendings. Wound care clinics that they cover. They have a resident run clinic that they cover. And so the students are just kind of plugged into those each week. So at the beginning of the week, they'll get their schedule, they'll see where they're going. And a lot of times they're not going off on their own. They're teamed up with a resident to join, maybe for a surgery to start the day. And even if that resident moves on to somewhere else, the student might stay and visit with that attending and shadow them in their practice. So we try to get them around and exposed to all of the attendings while they're here. And then they also, of course, participate in all the didactics. They get their own topic that they present on at the end of the month. So they kind of have time throughout the month to work on that. And we keep them busy.
Oh, I know, very busy. And I know that...
I should mention, though, busy, but they get their weekends off. So they do get to explore a bit of Colorado, and they love to get up to Rocky Mountain National Park and do things like that, too. So we like to let them see that side of our program as well.
And I remember when we used to interview potential candidates for the residency, so many of them had said, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait to go skiing." And we said, no, you're going to be working.
That's true.
You remember how that worked?
I do. Well, there was only one of us per year back then.
I know, busy.
So we covered a lot. Now there's two per year, so 6 total. So, they really can enjoy their weekends, which is nice.
Absolutely. That's great. Which is kind of a nice segue, because I wanted to ask you about, being a doc, having a lot of responsibilities at the hospital and all the different roles that you play, but you're also a mom and you've juggled a lot of balls over the years and very well, I might add. How did you find that balance for work-life harmony, Anna?
Yeah. So I have 3 kids. And yes, that work-life balance has always been important to me. It's more attainable at certain stages than others, but I think it's always good to have, your eye on those values and find ways to, be able to balance it, whatever that might mean for each individual person. So, I certainly know some parents who are doing more of a 7 to 3 kind of job and picking their kids up from school. I've never set my schedule up like that. I do take my Fridays off, which is why I'm here in my home office, and that's been really nice. Both Eric and I, my partner, decided about 6 years ago or so to do that. We had a couple of attendings who did that really early on in their careers and just said, this is what life's about. You work hard and you play hard, or enjoy your family, enjoy what you like to do outside of work. And so I will never look back. Having Fridays off is great. It does give flexibility to fill it with other things if I need to. And that might look like doing the grocery shopping or, getting us ready to go up to the mountains for the weekend. My kids are in school now. They're all of school age. So it's not like I'm home playing with them, but I still can find better ways to manage time by having some of that time off. And yeah, I mentioned different stages, it looks different for everybody, but there was a time, like when I first moved back here, that I worked part-time initially when I joined Eric. And then as soon as I went to full-time, it was kind of like, okay, this is going to be a couple years of intense work. And we had a nanny, and thankfully my husband works from home. So we made those couple years work. And I always am kind of thinking of goals and what's next. And so I envisioned that, well, if I work hard at this for a little bit, the next stage is going to look a little lighter, and was able to attain that. So that's been great.
That's great, because a lot of, and rightfully so, a lot of students that are looking at a career in the health professions realize it can be so all-encompassing, and they're acknowledging that early in their career now, and they're looking for work-life balance. So sure. Podiatric medicine does provide work-life balance, and you're living proof of that. That's great.
Thank you.
So. Yeah. As a family, what do you do in the mountains? Do you go skiing? Do you guys do a lot of activities in Colorado?
We do. We love to go hiking and camping in the summer and skiing as much as we can in the winter.
Oh, that's great. So where do you like to ski?
We mostly go to Beaver Creek.
Oh, do you? Okay. Oh, that's great. I love Beaver Creek.
Our kids have all gone through a ski program there, so that's kind of our home base. We know it inside and out and love to ski there.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. So let's talk about another subject. In our profession, we've been struggling with our applicant pool for a few years. A lot of that perhaps due to COVID and out of sight, out of mind, because the shadowing experience is so influential in getting students to apply. We've at the American Association of Colleges of Podiatric Medicine, initiated the Feet on the Street University and College Visitation Program, where we talk with advisors and students, and we bring in a shadowing doctor. And I have to tell you, I've been so appreciative of your efforts in that regard and Dr. Scholl's efforts. Can you say a few words about the college visits and what we've been doing and how that might impact the applicant pool going forward?
You bet. Well, congratulations on that initiative. It is so important. And I think, I don't know where we dropped off, and I don't know why, but I think that shadow experience, like you mentioned, is so important. And I think if you talk to podiatrists across the board, most of them, their minds were changed when they came out and shadowed a podiatrist in practice. And so, for a long time, I've been on that mentoring network and have had students kind of in and out, and some it clicks and some it doesn't. That's okay. They're exploring all aspects of medicine, and maybe it's not the fit. But I really think that the Feet on the Street is great because it's made our efforts more organized, and you've taken the time and you've engaged a lot of good people to really dedicate resources to it. And I haven't done one yet, but we've got one coming up in April together. And I know Dr. Scholl has done a few. And I think the suture workshops are really big because when you're there at the level of undergrads, they haven't had a lot of that hands-on experience yet. It's all been classroom work so far. And so it gives them a chance to think about a surgical career, to talk one-on-one and maybe a less formal way than just sitting in a classroom with the docs. And I know it's helpful to bring residents along and some of the younger practitioners. That really clicks, I think, with the undergrad students. I've also done high school level, so gone and just spoken at sort of a pre-health seminar at a couple of the high schools locally. And that's definitely also, garnered interest. And my door is always open. I always say, please come visit. At half day, you'll get to know what we do. And have had definitely some people take me up on that too. So it's, again, I don't know why it happened, but I think the winds of change are coming. And I really think we can get the numbers back up, because when people see what we do, I think it's a no-brainer for a lot of people.
I agree. One of the neatest days I had when we were trying to organize this whole process is that I got an email from Dustin Cruz with the Colorado Foot and Ankle Society, and you're a board member with him. And he said that even though that it's a small society, they wanted to contribute $10,000 to the overall effort for Feet on the Street. And that was incredible. We were so appreciative of that. And it's the only society in the country that just gave us a call and said, we're in, So I really appreciate that. And I speak on behalf of all the colleges of podiatric medicine that we appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome. When we sat around in that board meeting and discussed that, it was, everybody got very involved in the discussion. We all feel strongly about it. And so we were happy to be able to pledge that, and hopefully other state societies will follow suit. Anything I can do to get that word out, I'd be happy to.
All right, we may have to discuss that. Well, plus we'll be at the House of Delegates meeting in March, APMA too.
Exactly, yeah.
So looking forward to that. Well, that's also a good segue. Let's talk about some of the volunteer efforts that you're involved with. Maybe we start with the Colorado Foot and Ankle Society. You're on the board of directors. What does that entail, Anna?
Yeah, so I joined the board 2 to 3 years ago. It's usually a 2 to 3 year rotation, but I'm now, I guess, technically the president-elect in this current. So I was treasurer last year. In this current position, I will plan our annual scientific meeting. We do one every September or October for our members, and it's open to non-state members as well. 2 days of CME lectures. And then the following year, so 2025, I'll be president. So coming in, as a new board member, and right now it's really awesome. We've got like 3 practitioners that are maybe 5 years or less out in practice. So it's always cool to see the new people getting involved. But we meet once quarterly and discuss, any topics that have come up within the state. We plan a lot for that meeting. We send different members of the board out for different positions. So some of the APMA committees and the APMA House of Delegates, we get involved in those and initiatives like, you're talking about with Feet on the Street. Things come to our attention and we talk about whether this is a good use of our money that we make off the scientific meeting. We've also had some docs here locally start up a mission program in Peru. And so the board has gotten really behind them. And I think that's also a great thing for our state. So, just working on things at the state level, and we're the liaison essentially to national level organizations as well.
That makes sense. Do you mind discussing the mission work in Peru? That sounds exciting.
Yeah, so a doc out here, Kevin Blue, was really the one to get it started, and then Lauren Mulchin as well. So both of them are graduates of the PSL program, and they, I haven't gone. I haven't heard a ton about the actual trips yet, but they've had 2 so far, and they get all their supplies donated and organized and sent down there. They go into a hospital there, and they have, I believe it works kind of like one that I did back in the day, which is you put the word out locally. You get people in with deformities and pain and problems, and you sort of screen them early in the week, and you set up a surgery schedule, and you work on those patients that need surgery. And if they don't, you try to find local resources for other things they might need, whether it's, bracing or some physical therapy or whatever non-surgical care. But then it's a busy week of surgery. And then I think their goal would be to be down there a couple times a year and be able to see their follow-ups and really just help out the community down there.
What a wonderful effort. Are they bringing residents from the programs down?
I don't know if they're bringing residents yet.
All right. Well, it's in the formative stages, so that's wonderful. That's great.
I'm sure they'd like to.
Okay. Well, so you had mentioned before that when you're involved at the state level, it's a natural extension to get into a national level. And you are a Colorado delegate to the House of Delegates with the American Podiatric Medical Association. What does that entail, Anna?
Yeah, so the House of Delegates takes place once a year in Washington, D.C., and it works like Congress. Different states send a number of representatives based on how many members are in their state. So I believe it's one rep for every 100 members. So my partner Eric and I have gone. He's gone maybe 3 or 4 years. I've gone 2. This will be my 3rd year coming up in March. And, similarly, but on a bigger and national level, the APMA gets very involved in a lot of the important efforts for the profession. So legislative efforts, things like getting us recognized as equal to other physicians in terms of pay and title. We work on insurance type of issues for reimbursement. We certainly, the last couple of years, a hot topic has been student recruitment. Work on the marketing efforts for the profession. And this is all done over the course of a couple days. This year will be the first year in a few years that we actually also will go onto the Hill and speak kind of as lobbyists, essentially, with some of the organizations there on issues that are important to our profession. And so that'll be an interesting add-on to it for a couple days.
Well, that's fabulous. Yeah, APMA's advocacy efforts, people don't realize what goes on behind the scenes to enable them to practice to the full extent of our training and scope. And hats off to APMA for all those efforts.
Absolutely.
Well, that's great. So I've got one other thing I wanted to ask you about. The Practice Health Independent Practice Association. You are a board of director on that also, Anna. You got a lot going. You got a lot of balls in the air. What does that entail?
So that's an organization here in Colorado, and it certainly exists in a lot of areas. Ours currently is 800 plus members, and not just podiatry and not just specialties either. So it's primary care and different surgical specialties under an umbrella, essentially, of a team that advocates for, again, kind of better rates with insurance companies. So they're able to use that physician volume in their negotiation efforts to get good reimbursement. It also has kind of a whole list of vendors that we can utilize. So things like Henry Schein, which is who we use for our supplies, we get better discounts again there. So we've got the super group benefits, and then we've also got this bigger group, 800 plus, where they can really negotiate on our behalf. And they're looking at doing things, excuse me, like providing maybe even malpractice benefits for the larger group, finding a vendor that could do health insurance benefits for staff. So again, all these things, you start to realize that the more people you have behind something, the better power you have. And so the board is made up of 10, I believe, of us in different specialties. And we just kind of inform the decision making and how the funds are going to be spent and on what efforts to make things better for those doctors that are members.
Oh, that's fabulous. Well, thank you for doing that. That's incredible. Yeah, if you're not at the table, you don't have a voice. You're not in the game. So thank you for doing that.
That's so true. And I mean, these board positions that I'm starting to come into, I plugged along for a lot of years and just head down and we do what we do. But it's really great to be at this stage of my career now. And again, people do it at different stages, but to get really involved and understand more and more all the things that are behind making us successful. And I've really enjoyed the learning and challenge of taking on these new positions.
Oh, well, thank you on behalf of everybody that benefits from your efforts, all of the practitioners in Colorado and nationwide. So thank you so much for that.
My
Anna.
pleasure.
So Anna, I am going to send you one of these Dean's Chat coffee cups. With your schedule, I imagine you are drinking some coffee or something. Some beverage, and appreciate you being on Dean's Chat, and thank you for enlightening us about all the different aspects of your career and work-life balance and the various entities that you're a part of. Thank you so much.
Oh, Jeff, you bet. And it's great to see you, and I applaud the program. I think it's been really interesting. I've listened to a couple of them, and I hope this is really useful for students and residents and beyond.
Thank you. Well, it's interesting because we've been actually promoting the Dean's Chats with the students from the various colleges, and some of them have over 1,000 views. So I'm hoping that will also transition into applicants at the national level for all the colleges.
Excellent.
All right. Well, for all of you listening on Apple or Spotify or watching on YouTube, please be a subscriber. We appreciate you being here. And until next week, cheers, everybody.
Thanks, Jeff.
Oh, Anna, that was outstanding. Thank you. All right.
That was fun.
It was fun. And you know what? That's a lot of fun stuff, isn't it? Podiatry is just such a great career. It boggles my mind that we don't have more people applying to it.
I know. I agree. And I mean, really, I'm telling you, when you go out and do these things, like the people raise their hands and they're like, wait, what? They start asking the questions,
right? And
you can see the wheels turning, that there's a lot of appeal here.
Yeah, we'll turn it around. Like you said, nothing happens overnight either. Just got to keep plugging away. All right. Well, hey, I'll give you a call about 10:30 or so.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Appreciate it, Anna. And talk to you in a little bit.
You bet.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.